My heart monitor flatlined to the sound of my husband's voicemail. Liam was supposed to be rushing to the hospital. Instead, he was across town, buying a diamond necklace for his mistress. When my eyes closed for the last time, I swore vengeance. Then, I woke up 3 years earlier. Rain lashed against the reinforced glass of room 402 at St. Jude's Medical Center, mirroring the violent, chaotic storm ravaging my own failing lungs. I was 32 years old, and I was dying alone. Every breath felt like inhaling crushed glass. My hands, once perfectly manicured and adorned with the 2-carat diamond Liam Gallagher had slipped onto my finger 7 years ago, were now bruised from endless IV lines. I reached a trembling hand toward my nightstand, my fingers clumsily knocking over a plastic cup of water just to grasp my phone. 0 new messages. I dialed his number for the 14th time. The automated voice clicked on immediately, a cheerful, soulless tone informing me that the subscriber was unavailable. Liam had promised me he was on a crucial business trip in Chicago, pitching our tech startup, Gallagher Innovations, to a board of venture capitalists. He had kissed my feverish forehead 3 days ago, swearing he would be back before my biopsy results came in. He didn't know I already had the results. Acute pulmonary fibrosis, exacerbated by a sudden, aggressive secondary infection. Doctor. Harrison Meade, a man whose eyes held too much pity for my liking, had told me my lungs were shutting down. I needed Liam. I needed the man I had built an empire for. The man whose college debts I had paid off by working double shifts at a local diner a decade ago. My phone vibrated. A surge of desperate hope flared in my chest, but it wasn't a message from Liam. It was a notification from a private, anonymous Instagram account I had followed weeks ago when I first suspected something was wrong. My thumbs felt like lead as I swiped open the screen. There it was. A live video, broadcasted just moments ago, tagged at the Grand Plaza Hotel right here in downtown Seattle, not Chicago. Through the blurred vision of my tears, I watched my husband. Liam was dressed in the bespoke navy Tom Ford suit I had bought him for his birthday. He was laughing. That deep, resonant sound I used to think belonged only to me. But he wasn't looking at me. He was looking down at Sabrina Hayes. Sabrina, my former best friend, the woman I had invited into my home, the woman I had recommended for the position of Vice President of Public Relations at our company when she was down on her luck. She was pressed against Liam's chest, wearing a backless crimson gown, holding up a glass of champagne. And resting heavily on her collarbone was a staggering sapphire and diamond pendant, the exact necklace Liam had claimed was too expensive when I admired it in a catalog months prior. To new beginnings, Sabrina purred into the camera, tilting her head up to capture Liam's lips. He kissed her deeply, hungrily, a kiss devoid of any worry for the wife suffocating in a sterile hospital room just miles away. A sharp, agonizing spasm ripped through my chest. The phone slipped from my grasp, clattering onto the linoleum floor. The cold realization washed over me, more chilling than the IV fluids dripping into my veins. Liam hadn't just abandoned me. He was waiting for me to die. My sudden illness was convenient. With me out of the picture, he would inherit the remaining 51% of Gallagher Innovations. He and Sabrina would take everything I bled for. I remembered the tea, the special herbal infusions Sabrina had been gifting me for the past 8 months to help with my stress-induced coughing. I remembered Liam insisting he brew it for me every night. My blood ran cold as the pieces clicked together in my oxygen-starved brain. It wasn't just a sudden illness. It was a slow, meticulous execution. The monitors beside my bed began to scream, a high-pitched, frantic wailing that signaled my heart rate plummeting. Nurses rushed into the room, their voices a muffled, distorted echo. Doctor. Meade was shouting orders. A defibrillator was being charged, but it all felt so distant. I couldn't breathe. The darkness was closing in at the edges of my vision, thick and absolute. But within that darkness, a fire ignited. It was a rage so profound, so pure, that it transcended the physical failing of my body. I gave you everything, Liam. I screamed in the confines of my mind, unable to force the words past my lips. I built you, and you threw me to the wolves for her. Clear! Dr. Mead yelled. A jolt of electricity slammed into my chest, lifting my body off the mattress, but the darkness was already pulling me under. I felt the final, definitive beat of my heart. If there is a hell, I thought, letting the blackness consume me, I will drag you both down with me. The monitor emitted a continuous, flat tone. Chloe Gallagher was dead. Sunlight, warm golden sunlight, pierced my eyelids, followed immediately by the rich, earthy scent of freshly brewed espresso and the faint, familiar undertone of Tom Ford Oud Wood cologne. I gasped, my eyes flying open, my hands instinctively flying to my chest. I expected to feel the rigid wires of the EKG, the sharp prick of IV needles, and the agonizing burn in my lungs. But my chest expanded effortlessly. My breathing was deep, clear, and painless. I sat up so fast the room spun. I wasn't in room 402 of St. Jude's. I was sitting in the middle of a plush, king-sized bed, wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets. The bedroom was vast, decorated in the minimalist, modern style I had personally curated. Our penthouse in Belltown. Whoa, easy there, sleepyhead. My head snapped toward the doorway. Liam stood there, leaning against the frame, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He was wearing his gray sweatpants and a tight white t-shirt, looking exactly as he had before, the lies, the deceit, and the murder. He looked young, vibrant, and perfectly innocent. My stomach violently rebelled. The urge to vomit was overwhelming, followed instantly by a primal, bloodthirsty urge to leap across the bed and wrap my hands around his throat until the life faded from his lying eyes. I dug my perfectly manicured nails, no bruises, no hospital bands, into my palms until the pain grounded me. Liam? My voice cracked. It sounded stronger, younger. In the flesh, he chuckled, walking over and sitting on the edge of the mattress. He handed me a mug. Happy anniversary, Chloe. 2 years of wedded bliss. I let you sleep in because I know how exhausted you've been finalizing the Q3 financial reports. 2 years. I frantically glanced past him to the digital clock on the nightstand. The date flashed in bright white numbers. The 14th of October, 2023. 3 years. I had somehow been violently thrown back 3 years in time. The 14th of October, 2023. The exact day of our second wedding anniversary. My mind raced, pulling fragments of my previous life together. This wasn't just our anniversary. This was the exact day Liam told me he had hired a new executive assistant. This was the day Sabrina Hayes stepped into Gallagher Innovations. You okay, babe? You look like you've seen a ghost, Liam asked, his brow furrowing in that feigned expression of concern I now recognized as a masterclass in manipulation. He reached out to brush a stray lock of hair behind my ear. Every fiber of my being screamed at his touch, but I forced my muscles to relax. If I lashed out now, I was just a crazy, hysterical wife. I had no proof. I had no leverage. If I wanted to destroy them, I couldn't just ruin their day. I had to dismantle their entire lives, piece by piece, just as they had dismantled mine. I forced the corners of my mouth to turn upward into a soft, adoring smile. I'm fine, darling, I lied smoothly, taking a sip of the coffee. Just a strange dream. Thank you for the coffee. He beamed, leaning in to kiss my forehead. Anything for my queen. Listen, I have to head into the office a bit early. We have a new hire starting today, Sabrina. I need to get her up to speed before the board meeting. There it was. The name dropped so casually, as if she were just another cog in the machine, rather than the venomous snake he was inviting into our garden. Sabrina, I repeated, tasting the poison of the name on my tongue. That sounds wonderful. I hope she's a good fit for the team. She's brilliant. You'll love her, Liam said, completely oblivious to the predator awakening beside him. He stood up, smoothing his shirt. I made reservations for us at Le Gourmand tonight at 8. Dressed to kill, Mrs. Gallagher. Oh, I planned to, I murmured, watching him walk out of the room. The moment the front door clicked shut, the facade dropped. I threw the covers off and marched to my private study. I didn't have time to process the metaphysical impossibility of my rebirth. The universe had handed me a loaded gun, and I was going to use it. I booted up my encrypted laptop. Gallagher Innovations was built on my genius. I was the chief financial officer and the lead software architect. Liam was the charismatic face, the CEO who glad-handed investors, but the patents? The proprietary algorithms that made the company worth $80 million. They were legally registered under a shell corporation I had set up before we got married, just in case. In my past life, I had transferred those patents to Liam's name on our 3rd anniversary as a gesture of ultimate trust. Not this time. My first call wasn't to a therapist. It was to Arthur Pendleton, the most ruthless, discreet private investigator in the Pacific Northwest. Arthur was a former MI6 operative who specialized in corporate espionage and high-profile infidelity. Pendleton, a gruff voice answered on the second ring. Mr. Pendleton, my name is Chloe Gallagher. I need to hire you on a permanent retainer starting immediately, I said, my voice cold and precise. Money is absolutely no object. What are we looking for, Mrs. Gallagher? A woman named Sabrina Hayes. She started working at Gallagher Innovations today. I want her phones cloned, her emails monitored, and her apartment bugged. I want to know who she talks to, where she sleeps, and what brand of toothpaste she buys. And I need a shadow on my husband, Liam Gallagher. Every hotel room, every text message, every late night at the offices. Arthur whistled softly through the receiver. That's a heavy surveillance package. It borders on the illegal. I will double your standard rate in untraceable cryptocurrency, paid up front. I countered without missing a beat. I'll send you a secure server link in 5 minutes, Arthur replied. Consider it done. I hung up, staring at my reflection in the dark screen of my monitor. The woman looking back at me wasn't the naive, unconditionally loving wife who had died gasping for air in St. Jude's. The softness in my eyes had burned away, replaced by a glacial, unyielding resolve. Liam and Sabrina thought they were the masterminds, playing a grand game of chess with my life. They thought they could slowly poison the queen and take the kingdom. But they didn't realize the rules had changed. They were no longer playing against a trusting wife. They were playing against a ghost, with nothing to lose. And I was about to turn their stolen kingdom into a slaughterhouse. Medium rare Wagyu beef rested on my plate, glistening under the muted amber lights of the restaurant, but it tasted like wet ash on my tongue. Across the candlelit table, Liam swirled a heavy glass of Cabernet, the dark red liquid clinging to the crystal like blood. He was radiating charisma, flashing that perfectly asymmetrical smile that had once convinced me to mortgage my childhood home to fund his startup dreams. 2 years, Chloe, he murmured, reaching across the starched white linen to cover my hand with his. His palm was warm, the skin slightly rough from his weekend tennis matches. And we are just getting started. Gallagher Innovations is going to dominate the market by Q4, and it's all because of you, my brilliant anchor. Bile, hot and acidic, crawled up my throat. I stared at his hand, resting over mine. I could almost feel the ghost of the IV needle piercing my vein, could almost hear the agonizing, flat mechanical drone of the heart monitor. He was looking at me with such fabricated devotion that a terrifying realization settled into my bones. Liam was a sociopath. There was no internal conflict behind his eyes, no guilt dragging down the corners of his mouth. He was perfectly comfortable existing inside a lie. "We make a good team," I replied, my voice steady, though my fingernails dug deep into my own thigh under the table. I forced my muscles to relax, offering him a serene, loving smile. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a long, flat velvet box from his breast pocket. He popped it open to reveal a string of flawless South Sea pearls. They reminded me of you. Classic. Unbreakable. Unbreakable. The bitter irony almost made me laugh. I let him fasten the cold, heavy beads around my neck. They felt like a a chilling reminder of the suffocating death he had planned for me. I touched the pearls, locking eyes with him. "They are perfect, Liam. I'll wear them tomorrow to welcome your new assistant." The next morning, the Gallagher Innovations headquarters smelled of ozone, fresh carpet, and the sharp bite of citrus cleaning supplies. I stood behind the frosted glass of my CFO office, watching the bullpen. At exactly 9 o'clock, Sabrina Hayes walked through the double glass doors. She wore a tailored beige skirt suit that hugged every curve, carrying a leather portfolio that I knew Liam had purchased for her. Even from 30 feet away, I could practically smell her signature scent, a cloying synthetic jasmine that tried and failed to mask the cheapness beneath. Liam emerged from his office immediately. The way his shoulders dropped, the subtle leaning of his torso toward hers, it was a microscopic gravitational pull that no one else would notice. But I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was a predator, studying my prey. Sabrina caught my eye through the glass. Her lips stretched into a wide, brilliant smile, and she offered a little wave. I pushed the glass door open and walked out, the heels of my Louboutins clicking rhythmically against the polished concrete floor. "Chloe!" Sabrina beamed, stepping forward to wrap me in a tight embrace. The stiff fabric of my blazer pressed against her. It has been far too long. When Liam said you guys needed a PR manager, I practically jumped at the chance. I owe you both so much. "We are thrilled to have you, Sabrina," I said, pulling back just enough to look her in the eye. "Gallagher Innovations is at a pivotal turning point. We need people we can trust implicitly." A microscopic twitch disrupted the smooth perfection of her forehead, gone in a fraction of a second. "Absolutely. You can count on me." I spent the next 3 weeks operating on 4 hours of sleep a night. By day, I was the supportive wife and the meticulous CFO. By night, I was a ghost in the machine. I legally transferred the core patents, the proprietary algorithms that actually made our software function, out of the Gallagher Innovations holding company and into a blind trust located in the Cayman Islands, solely controlled by me. Liam, notoriously averse to reading dense legal jargon, had signed the routine restructuring documents without a second glance, too distracted by his afternoon meetings. On a rainy Tuesday, my private investigator, Arthur Pendleton, summoned me to a bleak, fluorescent-lit diner in the industrial district. The air inside smelled of stale frying oil and burnt coffee. Arthur, a heavy-set man with perpetually tired eyes, slid a thick manila envelope across the sticky Formica table. "You were right, Mrs. Gallagher," Arthur grumbled, pouring sugar into his mug. "They aren't just sleeping together. They are running a parallel financial track." I unclasped the envelope. Dozens of high-resolution photographs spilled out. Liam and Sabrina entering a boutique hotel in Bellevue. Liam kissing her neck in a dimly lit parking garage. But the photos were nothing compared to the financial documents Arthur had procured. "He's been siphoning company funds through vendor overpayments," Arthur explained, tapping a ledger with a thick, calloused finger, routing it into a shell account under her maiden name. "He bought her a luxury condo in Capitol Hill 2 weeks ago. And there's audio." He handed me a small USB drive. I pulled this from the bug in his car. I plugged it into my tablet and pressed play. The audio was scratchy, layered with the hum of a car engine and the rhythmic thumping of windshield wipers. "She's asking questions about the Q2 budget, Liam," Sabrina's voice hissed, devoid of its usual syrupy sweetness. "You said she'd be hands-off this quarter." "Relax, Bree," Liam's voice replied, careless and arrogant. "Chloe is clueless. She's so obsessed with the coding architecture she doesn't even look at the vendor lines anymore. Just give it time. Once the Apex launch happens and the valuation doubles, I'll initiate the buyout clause. If she fights it, well, we'll accelerate the other plan." "I ordered the tea," Sabrina said softly. "The aconite blend. It takes months to build up in the system, but it mimics respiratory failure. Undetectable unless they are specifically looking for heavy metal toxins." My blood turned to ice. My lungs instinctively constricted, phantom pain ripping through my chest. They hadn't just plotted to steal my company. They had actively researched how to murder me. The tea. the herbal infusions she would give me to help me relax. "Do you want me to take this to the police?" Arthur asked, watching my face closely. Conspiracy to commit murder is a heavy charge. "No," I whispered, the word sharp as a razor. Police would mean bail. It would mean lawyers dragging it out for years. It would mean they had a chance to fight back. I don't just want them in jail, Arthur. I want them humiliated, ruined, and begging for a mercy they will never receive. I want them to burn in front of everyone they respect. I slid a cashier's check across the table. "Keep monitoring them. In exactly 1 month, we host the Apex Launch Gala. That is where we drop the guillotine. 50 days after Chloe's rebirth, the ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel hummed with the electric energy of Seattle's elite. Tonight was the launch of Project Apex, Gallagher Innovations' revolutionary predictive analytics software. Chloe stood near an imposing ice sculpture, the emerald green silk of her backless gown cool against her skin. She sipped sparkling water, her gaze tracking Sabrina Hayes across the room. Sabrina wore a crimson dress, the exact gown she had worn in the live video on the night Chloe died. The sight twisted Chloe's stomach, but she held her ground, her expression an impenetrable mask. "Chloe, you look stunning," Sabrina cooed, approaching with a small, beautifully wrapped tin box. "I stopped by a holistic shop in Pike Place and got you a special herbal tea blend to calm your nerves. You should brew a cup tonight." Chloe looked at the tin. Inside that innocuous metal box was the aconite blend that had slowly, agonizingly suffocated her in her previous life. She reached out, her fingers brushing Sabrina's, and took the poison. "How incredibly thoughtful, Sabrina," Chloe replied, her voice dropping an octave. "I will make sure this gets exactly what it deserves." Before Sabrina's smile could completely falter, the ballroom lights dimmed. A single, dramatic spotlight hit the main stage. Liam strutted out, microphone in hand, looking every bit the Silicon Valley visionary. The crowd erupted into applause. He launched into his pitch, pacing the stage with expansive, confident gestures. "Project Apex isn't just software, it is a paradigm shift," Liam boomed, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. "But I couldn't have done this alone. Gallagher Innovations is a family." He gestured toward the board of directors in the front row. "And tonight, to secure our future as CEO, I am announcing a complete corporate restructuring." It was his opening move to publicly sideline Chloe. She set her glass down. It was time. Pulling her phone from her clutch, Chloe accessed the master control for the AV system, seamlessly overriding the stage technician's console. "We are consolidating our assets," Liam continued, but his microphone screeched with harsh feedback, cutting his grand speech short. The massive LED screen behind him abruptly flickered to black. A collective murmur rippled through the bewildered crowd. Then, the screen flared back to life. It wasn't the Apex presentation. It was a high-resolution scan of a bank statement from a prominent offshore bank. The account name read in bold lettering, Sabrina Hayes. Below it, a highlighted ledger showed a recurring monthly transfer of $45,000 originating directly from Gallagher Innovations' vendor accounts. The ballroom plunged into a dead, suffocating silence. Liam froze. The blood drained from his face as he turned to stare at the screen. "What is this?" someone from the board shouted, shattering the quiet. "Liam, what are we looking at?" Before Liam could stammer an excuse, the image shifted to a series of text messages, blown up 10 feet tall for the entire room to read. "Liam, the board is eating out of my hand. Chloe is oblivious. Just keep pouring the tea, babe. Sabrina, I love you. Can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Liam, soon. Once the poison does its job, the company is ours." A collective gasp echoed. Journalists scrambled, holding up their phones to record every second. Camera flashes illuminated Liam's face, capturing raw, naked terror. He looked desperately into the crowd and locked eyes with Chloe. Chloe walked slowly down the center aisle. The crowd instinctively parted for her. "Chloe," Liam choked out, abandoning the dead microphone. Sweat beaded heavily on his forehead. "Chloe." This is a hack. It's a deep fake. You have to believe me. Chloe walked up the short stairs onto the stage, stopping 3 feet from him. Up close, the confident CEO was gone. He smelled of sour sweat and blind panic. I believed you when you said you were in Chicago, she said softly, her voice slicing through his panic, loud enough only for him and the front row to hear. I believed you when you said you loved me, but I draw the line at drinking your poison. She pulled the tin box from her clutch and tossed it at his feet. It clattered loudly against the wooden stage floor. I had Arthur Pendleton audit the company accounts, Chloe announced, turning to face the board of directors. Her voice was commanding, echoing across the silent room. Liam Gallagher has embezzled over $2.4 million to fund his mistress's lifestyle. Furthermore, as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, the proprietary patents for Project Apex, legally owned by my private holding company, have been formally withdrawn from Gallagher Innovations. Pandemonium erupted. Major investors, including Richard O'Connell, instantly pulled out their phones to dial their legal teams. Without those patents, Gallagher Innovations was worthless, an empty shell drowning in fraud. You can't do that! Liam screamed, lunging forward. He grabbed Chloe's arm, his grip desperate and tight. I built this! You're my wife! With a sharp, violent jerk, she ripped her arm free. I was your wife, Chloe corrected coldly. Now, I am your ruin. The heavy wooden doors at the back of the ballroom swung open with a resounding crash. 4 uniformed Seattle police officers, accompanied by 2 detectives and Arthur Pendleton, marched inside. Liam Gallagher? The lead detective barked over the noise. You are under arrest for felony embezzlement and corporate fraud. Sabrina Hayes, you are being detained for conspiracy to commit bodily harm. Liam's knees buckled. His tailored suit suddenly looked 3 sizes too big as he dropped heavily to the floor, grasping desperately at the hem of Chloe's gown. Please, Chloe, please, he sobbed, his face smeared with tears. I'm sorry. Don't let them take me. I have nothing. Chloe looked down at the man who had callously waited for her to suffocate in a hospital room. The rage that had burned inside her hardened into an unbreakable diamond of vindication. You have exactly what you deserve, she whispered, kicking her leg free from his grasp. She stepped back, watching coldly as the officers hauled him off the floor and snapped the cold steel cuffs shut. Across the room, Sabrina fought 2 officers, screaming obscenities as they dragged her toward the exit. The storm had finally broken. Chloe walked out of the ballroom, leaving the chaos behind. The cool night air of Seattle hit her face, and her lungs expanded perfectly, taking in a deep, clean breath. She was alive, she was wealthy, and for the first time in her existence, she was completely, unapologetically free. The ultimate betrayal met the ultimate revenge. Chloe rewrote her tragic ending into a masterclass of justice, leaving those who tried to bury her to rot in the grave they dug themselves. Have you ever faced a betrayal that changed you completely? Drop your story in the comments below. If you felt the rush of this revenge, smash that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more.